Hello, State Senator Jason Rapert here. I just wanted to take a moment and reflect and talk to you just a moment about the decision that we've just had in King versus Burwell by the United States Supreme Court. On its face, I've already been asked for my reaction, and I will tell you that my first reaction is of shock and dismay. I really don't understand how that anyone can look at a statute or a law passed by Congress and say that when they said that it was to be a state exchange, that Congress really did not mean that it was to be a state exchange. So what we've had here today is a situation where almost as the justices said, it depends on what no means. Well, I really don't understand how that we can have confidence in the rule of law and confidence in procedure here in our country when the United States Supreme Court even will look at a word and tell you that that word did not actually mean exactly what it said in that statute. Now, as far as the outcome of the decision that we've had, obviously, if you like Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, as you've noted in this country, then obviously status quo. Everything continues. We continue to spend money that we do not have to pay for benefits, frankly, that are not as good as many people had under their private insurance years ago. If you are against Obamacare, as I have been since the very beginning of my service in elected office, then obviously you don't like this decision. I do not like the decision because, number one, I don't believe that the Obamacare legislation, the Affordable Care Act, has been good for the country. People have continued to see their insurance premiums go up while they have lost benefits. Now, am I happy that there are people in this country that may very well need assistance and they get that assistance? Of course I am. That's really what Medicaid, traditional Medicaid, was set up to do anyway, is to help people that are elderly, disabled, and people that simply cannot help themselves. We have Medicare for retirees in our country, and Medicaid was supposed to be for people that truly could not help themselves in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But what's happened is it's become, in many cases, a tool for people not to go out and get their own private insurance. And that's why in the state of Arkansas, we had what we thought was a third way, the private option. Obviously, many people disagreed with the private option because the private option took those federal dollars that normally would go to Medicaid and put those federal dollars towards subsidies for people to buy insurance on exchanges. We simply did that in Arkansas because it was our only choice. We are not the Supreme Court at the Arkansas legislature. We also are not the U.S. Congress, the U.S. House, the U.S. Senate, nor are we in power of what the federal law is. So in Arkansas, we had to do like a lot of states did, and that is simply try to do the best we can and survive until hopefully something would change with the Affordable Care Act. Well, unfortunately today, with this decision, another decision, by the way, where Justice Roberts ruled completely contrary to the principles and philosophy that many of us thought that he held. He ruled against the people of this nation in this ruling, and I'm very disappointed in that. So, in the end of this, my initial reaction to this has been, number one, I disagree with the ruling on its face, but the most important thing in my mind and the most critical thing to me right now is the fact that we have a situation where our United States Supreme Court has really become an activist court, just like many of our other federal courts in this country. That is a crisis of federalism in our nation. We have three branches of government. The executive branch is supposed to enforce the law. Congress obviously makes the laws that the executive branch enforces, and the judiciary interprets the law. Unfortunately, in the past few years, especially under the Obama administration, we've had a situation where the president has decided, as he says, to use his pen and his pad, and he is ruling by edicts, executive orders. He is actually ruling in matters that presidents normally do not make rulings in those matters. He has told the Justice Department not to enforce laws that were on the books, that were to be enforced, and he just decided to say, you don't enforce those laws. That is wrong. I think it's unconstitutional. And what we've had happening in the courts, we have another big ruling coming up here in just a few days, a ruling on traditional marriage, marriage between one man and one woman. Most all of the states in this country says that we want marriage to be between one man and one woman, but no, federal courts, often one judge in one state or three judges in an appellate court, those judges have said that the majority of people in those states are wrong. And they are literally cramming the homosexual agenda down the throats of the American people. And so now, because they've overturned many of these laws in these states, they will tell you that many states in the country allow same-sex marriage. That has not been the case. That's not been the vote of the people. That's not even been the rulings of many of their state courts. This has been done by federal courts. So in a few days, we're going to have another ruling. Now, I hope that the Supreme Court will redeem itself and rule and support and protect over 200 years of marriage in this nation since we have been a nation, since 1776, when our founding fathers wrote the Declaration of Independence. However, we're waiting on that ruling. Regardless of their ruling in this ruling today and many rulings in the past few years tells me that we have an activist court that must be stopped. I urge every single member, all 435 members of the United States Congress, and I urge all 100 United States senators to stand up for the people of this country, to stand up for the rule of law, and to stand against a president who's acting more like an emperor or a king than he is a president, and to stand up against 9 unelected federal judges that sit on our Supreme Court. I believe in the rule of law, and I believe in the principles of Republican democracy that are in this nation. We're a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people. When you have a nation where courts will force the vast majority of people to do things that are against their will, when you will have a president that will enforce things that are against the vast majority of the will of the people in this nation, you have a big problem. I submit to you, you do not have a republic anymore when you have branches of government that say they know better and supersede the will of the people in our nation. I believe fundamentally, that when our founding fathers said that we call on divine providence and that we want to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I do not believe that liberty in any way is carried out when you enforce laws and rules that are against the will of the majority of the people and the liberties that they hold dear. I urge every single American to get active. I urge every single person to register to vote. And I really call upon the good people of this country. There are over 80 million evangelical Christians in this nation, and only half of you are registered to vote. They say only 40 million of you are registered to vote, and usually less than half of you that are registered will go vote. Barack Obama was elected with around 3 million popular votes the last time. Just think what would have happened if the other half of those 40 million evangelical Christians would have got up and went to the polls and voted. You would not have Obamacare in this nation, and we would not be having a discussion that we're having today about traditional marriage. And just maybe we might unwind this atrocity that we deal with in our country, which is abortion as a form of birth control. What kind of country, since 1973, what kind of country would take the lives of innocent little babies, 60 million of them now? I submit to you that we have to turn back to God in this country, that we have to, again, truly be one nation under God, and that we also need to get back to the rule of law, to respect the United States Constitution, and to make sure that our branches of government truly operate as co-equals. Because right now, we have activist courts that are running over the rights of the majority of people in this nation. I never want a minority group, whether that be a minority political group or a racial group, I would never want them to be discriminated against. I never want them to be ostracized against, etc. But we do have a Republican form of democracy. That means that majority vote rules. And that means that when there are issues that are closely held and dear to the liberties of that majority, that you do not run over them. That's what the basics and fundamentals of democracy is about. Folks, I'm going to continue to pray for America. I'm going to continue to stand up for the values and the principles that people elected me to uphold. And I can tell you that whether I am in the Arkansas State Senate or any other political elected office in this country, no matter if I am even serving an elected office, that as for my house, as for Jason Rapert and his house, we are going to serve the Lord, and we are going to fight for American values that made this country great. And I'm praying that soon we'll turn things around. God bless you, and God bless America.